Log on to support.sap.com and search for the Software Provisioning Manager. Always ensure to download the software relevant for your operating system. In our case, this is Linux. Okay, so choose the Software Provisioning Manager in the Maintenance Software component. Download the Software Provisioning Manager version 1. And as you can see, this is a SAR file. This should be saved to a location on the server which will host the central instance of your BW4HANA system, as this is where SAPinst will run. Next, we'll search for the software related to BW4HANA. Search by alphabetical order under the letter B, and then search for BW4HANA. Save the installation export, the SAP kernel, and the HANA client in a location where they can be accessed by the SAPinst tool, which should be installed on the central instance of your new system. If required, you should also download this SAP CAR tool, which is used to extract files from a SAR file. The next step is to log on to the central instance server at OS level as the root user. Here we've made a copy of the root user called HSC root. Here we can extract the files from the software packages which we have recently downloaded. As a suggestion, I would recommend to create folders for each of your software components. The first step required is to unpack the Software Provisioning Manager SAR file. This provides us with the tool SAPinst, which we will use to perform the installation. At OS level, we can also start VNC Server, a tool used to graphically display Unix-based programs. When you start VNC Server, a port number is provided, and you may also need to provide a password. VNC Server is by default installed on all Linux machines, but you will also need to install it locally on your own machine. Start VNC Viewer on your machine. Enter the server name and VNC port number. From the drop-down, choose Let VNC Server Choose and click Connect. Enter the password. The VNC Viewer screen is opened in the same location where the port number was requested. Navigate to the location of SAPinst. That's where the Software Provisioning Manager was unpacked. Type ./SAPinst to start the tool. When the tool is opened, follow the menu path BW4HANA 1, SAP BW4HANA Server, BW HANA Database, SAP Systems, Application Server ABAP, Standard System. Check Standard System and click Next. In the background, the temp directory is accessed, and this is where all of the logs related to the installation are written. Choose a typical installation and click Next. This will provide you with the default parameters for the system. Enter your SAP system ID. So this is the identifier for your system. And then choose the directory where the system will be installed. Generally under /usr/sap/the system ID. Click Next. On the next screen, enter the password for all users. These are standard system users who will all have the same password. You can change those at a later time. Click Next. This provides you with some information about an environment variable. You can read more about this in SAP Note 1990894. For now, we can ignore this and click OK. Assuming that the database has already been installed, enter the information related to the database. At this point, if the database weren't installed, you would be asked for the media or the DVDs relevant for your database that you want to install. So enter the database ID, the host on which it is installed, the instance number of your HANA database, and the password for the SAP HANA Database System Administrator. This is the system user in HANA. Click Next. You now need to provide the media related to the SAP kernel. This we have installed in a folder called kernel. When this is unpacked, you can provide the folder name and then click Next. We now need to define where the client software, so this is the HANA client, will be installed. We're going to install this locally and then provide the location where we have downloaded the HANA client. So I've unpacked the HANA client. This was in a zip file, and I'm going to provide it with the directory name. Click Next. Now you need to provide the location of the installation export. If you're performing a migration, this would be the location where your BW installation is located. Okay, we downloaded this from the Service Marketplace. We haven't unpacked this file, so just to show you, this is a zip file. We simply need to unzip this file. So go back to your PuTTY. Go to the location where your zip file has been stored and unzip the file. Okay, we need to perform the search once again. So we browse to the directory stored on our NAS drive, which is mounted onto our Linux server. I've created a folder for the installation export called BW for HANA. Point to that location and click Next. We just need to provide a password for the database schema. In our case, this will be SAP ABAP 2. We can change the schema name at this point if we want. If we don't change the password, it's assumed that the password will be that of the master password which was provided. Okay, this is just some information in relation to the parameters for the HANA import, or for the import of your installation export. You can change the values here if you wish to. We go with the default, so click Next. We don't need to perform any declustering or depooling of ABAP tables because this is an installation export. This might be required if we were performing a migration from another database. So click Next. We don't have a solution landscape diagnostic setup, so we choose no SLD destination. If you have solution landscape diagnostic setup, you can enter the information here. In relation to secure storage, we will choose the default key. As this is a test system, you can get an individual key assigned here, and this is for secure storage key generation. So click Next. At this point, we can review the earlier decisions which we've made in relation to the installation, the parameters, the passwords which we have provided. We don't make any changes, so we click Next. And the installation begins. The important part of this is the import ABAP step. This is where the packages which contain your tables are installed. We've sped this up considerably. This normally takes some amount of time. For a blank installation, this could take a number of hours. Once you get to the end of this, your installation is complete and you can log on to your system. That's the end of the presentation or the video in relation to the installation of a Greenfield BW4 HANA system. Thanks for listening.